It's time now for the award-winning #1 local talk show in Northeast Pennsylvania, The Sam Lesante Show. Now here's your host, Sam Lesante.
All right, folks, we're hearing a lot about the lottery. We're hearing a lot about the liquor stores, our budget, our governor. What's going on in the state of Pennsylvania? First of all, how many facts do we have? Are the things really factual, or how much politics is being played? I have on the show today, no stranger to the Sam Lesante Show, always responds when I ask them to come on. Very busy in the state of Pennsylvania. Dan Meuser, our Secretary of Revenue, and I said this many times before, folks, on this show. Every time I ask Dan a question, I get a fact, I get the bottom line. It's not any nonsense, and Dan, I appreciate that. But first of all, thanks for coming on the show again.
My pleasure to be here, Sam. Thanks for the invitation.
You know, I tell you, you have a challenging job. Okay, and I think there's a couple things that I'd like our viewers to understand. Putting politics aside, which seems to be a problem in the state of Pennsylvania, Dan, let's talk about, you. Tara Toohill, when she was on the show, we talked about, who you are, how you started in business, and, you have you grew a business. You were successful at it. It didn't happen overnight. So you have you went through the ranks of a business, and I know what it is because I have a business. So with that being said, now you're the Secretary of Revenue, and I think when Governor Corbett looked at his cabinet, he said, "Let me fill these things in with people who are talented in knowing what they're doing and knowing a lot more about revenue than he does, as far as putting some people in his cabinet." So with that being said, we have the story about the Pennsylvania lottery. Let me go right to the meat of the.
Sure.
How did this whole thing evolve where the lottery started coming into play? Right. And so step us from the beginning to where we at and where we are now.
Well, thanks for the opportunity to do that. You mentioned facts, and that's certainly what I want to talk about. And unfortunately, there's been a tremendous amount of frankly, mistruths and even close to smear campaigns related to this issue. And frankly, I don't know why. Because come the end of the day, all we're doing is trying to lay out the best plan possible for older Pennsylvanians. We have a state with, it's approximately 17.5% older Pennsylvanians over the age of 65. That's going to increase by almost 40% over the next 12, 14 years. Our lottery fund, which pays out over $1 billion towards programs for older Pennsylvanians, for many programs, for pharmaceuticals, property tax rent rebate, shared ride programs, home care services, quite a few programs that have become to rely upon. Those programs now have waiting lists, and those, even with the success and growth of the lottery, and those programs, it's clear, will be underfunded somewhat significantly within the next 3, 5, 7 years. We've been making strides. We've been working at the lottery, changing some things that I can discuss. Nevertheless, those are the facts. Even the legislator has come out and said, hey, we can see that the demand's going to exceed the funding levels. So we looked to see what was best. We looked around the country. We saw this idea of bringing in a private management firm and helping to help us grow the lottery. The lottery cannot be sold. We've heard this. I was in a hearing yesterday. Some legislators, leaders were referring to, well, you're trying to sell the lottery. Absolutely not. It's against federal law. It's against state law. And I hope that's not what the Attorney General's conclusions were based upon, because it's a false premise. We're not trying to sell the lottery. We are hiring a business growth manager. This was the idea, that has expertise, global leaders, in coming in and pointing out our weaknesses and help us grow the lottery far better than we can ourselves. When I say far better, I mean $3 billion better than our dynamic projections over the next 10 to 15 to 20 years. And within the next 10 years, it will be in the neighborhood of about $1.5 billion than we can do on our own. So we bring this firm in, and along with that, the best part of this plan would be they don't just protect our downside, they eliminate our downside by putting up $200 million of reserve that we hold in 150 million in cash and 50 million in line of credit, that if they don't hit those minimal growth, what we call annual profit commitments, we then can draw from the account that we're going to hold in our possession, we can draw from to assure that the lottery fund levels maintain that very high new levels of revenue. It's a win-win for the Commonwealth, and unfortunately, it's now in jeopardy.
Okay, so let's go back, because I have now first of all, I'm a registered Democrat, okay? Why, I have no idea, but I'm a registered Democrat. So I want the viewers to understand that. Today, in our country, people are fed up with the politicians. They're fed up with Congress, they're fed up with what's going on, we're getting belted all over the place. It's a very challenging job. I look at the fact that we have Tom Corbett, who was our governor. When he was the Attorney General for 8 years, I think he did whatever he said he was going to do, he accomplished. Now he's running for governor, he ran for governor, excuse me, he said he was going to do certain things, and he's beginning to do that. Not being an Attorney General, like Kathleen Kane is, my question would be, before you would come out and make any, put a sprag into what you're talking about, was there any research done on the Attorney General's part with the governor and saying, let me sit down with you and find out, or with you, Dan, okay, and said, let's have a meeting here, I have questions, because she said, did Corbett overstep his constitutional authority in signing the lottery contract, okay? She cited the State Lottery Act, the Gaming Act, and other applicable case laws as reasons why the contract didn't meet the test and its legality. Right. Now, my question is that, did they meet with you? Did they meet with the governor and go over this entire plan?
No, not in the manner that it could have been. And that's truly what the practice has been, my understanding anyway, of the Attorney General's office. But how the Attorney General's office is going to run today, that's entirely up to the Attorney General. We received a letter with questions that we frankly have answered dozens of times. We've made ourselves available to answer any question, and we forwarded those questions back. As far as the legality goes, I have studied, granted I'm no lawyer, but being in business for over 20 years, you learn a thing or two about business law and the law itself, and we have plenty of lawyers within the Commonwealth, both public and private, have reviewed the agreement and the contracts. And the authority to enter into a vendor relationship, and that's all this is, with a manager that would help us grow the lottery, is entirely within the statute of the Lottery Act, as passed by the legislator, and within the authority of the lottery. I don't think there's any real lack of clarity there, none, as far as we're concerned.
Another question I want to ask is this, okay? And because again, I just want to make the viewers aware of this. Maybe 170 jobs that are involved with the lottery, okay? Are they unionized?
There's 240 employees at the lottery. 160 positions would be assigned to this to the private manager. The private manager has made the commitment to offer jobs to every single one of them. On top of that, the governor has made the commitment those who don't want to take employment with Camelot would be retained. We would find positions for them within the Commonwealth.
So now they are in the union?
Yes.
Okay. So now my other question would be this. Then it seemed that after she made this announcement, the Democrats, okay, you can Google this, folks, and the Democrats were excited about it. They hailed the decision, okay? Now, keeping in mind that the union supported her big time when she ran for Attorney General, okay? Now, my mind begins to think a little bit, saying, well, okay, fine. And again, I'm going to extend an invitation for her to come on my show. I wish she would come on so she could explain her side. But my mind begins to think that, well, if you did not sit down in thorough detail with the Secretary of Revenue, Dan Meuser, or the governor, saying, Governor, I have concerns about the legality here, okay? It seems to me that when the Democrats begin to, hail these decisions, and to protect the union people, and I just get this political concept here. And I'm hoping that this is not a political thing.
We asked for a meeting to take place. I have no reason to go into whether or not it's political or not. Looking at it just plainly based upon facts and lack thereof. And again, some of the comments that have come back, even in the testimony that I've listened to yesterday regarding the legalities, we have vendor relationships larger than this vendor relationship would be with actually two other vendors. One the retailers as a whole, but our informational technology vendor. We feel very strongly that the only loser, the loser at this point are older Pennsylvanians. I mean, let's face it.
And she said to beware of people that will come out and say this.
Yeah. Well, that's, again, this is not about Attorney General Kane. It's about the Attorney General's office. It's not personal whatsoever. However, that's all it's about. So what else is there to say? The only reason we entered into this is because we needed to add to the lottery fund for older Pennsylvanians. Older Pennsylvanians, because of this, we're going to do our best to maintain the levels of lottery funding. However, this plan assured us that we would have $3 billion more than we currently plan on having.
So the sad part here is that Dan Meuser, who has the experience that you have, 20 years, and starting from the basement of your place and making your company a multi-million-dollar company, now you're out of it, of course. I mean, at least you okay. And then you have the governor who was the attorney general for 8 years, and the record was fantastic records. And then he becomes a governor, and all of a sudden we have this happening. And that's why I think that there is something else happening where the public, once again, starts wondering, they're being told one thing, and I'm hoping this is not a political thing, again, to hurt the seniors. Folks, I'm talking to Secretary of Revenue Dan Meuser. If you recall, folks, I was asking for years where the money was going from the casinos, et cetera, and the only person ever came on this show and gave me facts was Dan Meuser. We'll be back right after this. Welcome back to the Sam Lesante Show, folks. Remember, 24/7 SSPTV.com. My email, sam@ssptv.com. You can watch the show anytime, anywhere in the world, 24/7. My guest today, Secretary of Revenue Dan Meuser. Dan, another interesting thing that's coming up and where the governor is looking at is why does he want to privatize the liquor stores?
Well, the governor has long felt that the state's role in the distribution and sale of wine and spirits should be regulation and enforcement. Really feels that there's a contradiction if the same entity that's providing the regulation and the law enforcement is also the company doing the advertising or the entity doing the advertising, distribution, and sales. Philosophically, just firmly believes that the state, it's not a core function of government, state should not be in the business. Now, what the benefits of divesting from the state liquor system would be is, number one, would be a tremendous amount of convenience. Number two, would bring a entrepreneurial spirit to, no pun intended, to the sales of wine and spirits throughout the state. It's only Pennsylvania and Utah that have the type of state control over the distribution of wine and spirits. So it's a modernization effort. It's providing to the private sector for the overall benefit of the people of Pennsylvania. More selection, more convenience, probably lower prices. That tends to happen in an open market, and for the state, it means revenue neutrality. The tax base will remain the same. There'll be more stores, so perhaps there could be a higher level of revenues. And with the sale and initial divestiture, we will create approximately $1 billion, about $1.1, $1.2 billion. That is one-time monies, but the governor will earmark and dedicate to programs benefiting education.
Yeah.
Young kids and basic education funding, not part of that fund, but additional to the basic education funding levels.
And he's already begun to make those announcements as to who would be getting what. I know in the Hazleton area, there's a $5-point-some million that the school district would be getting, and I'm sure this is being delivered throughout the state of Pennsylvania. Am I correct in that?
Yeah. That it will be how it's exactly going to be allocated. Will be, he set 4 categories, but the distribution levels will be as equivalent as possible throughout the state.
Okay, so these decisions are not made overnight. Okay,
Right.
You wake up in the morning and say, we'll sell the liquor stores. Let's get rid of the lottery or have no lottery. These are projects that have been planned carefully, and the pros and cons, like you do at Performa, as you know in business. You go to the bank, they want to know revenues. As we look at revenues, okay, do you feel that if the stores are privately owned, that it will continue the same amount of revenue that the state is getting, or will it increase or will it decrease based on your projections?
Well, we're calling it revenue neutral for now. The tax base will remain the same. We actually pay 24% tax on the purchase of wine or liquor. It's 6% sales tax and then an 18% Johnstown flood tax from 1937. As archaic as that sounds, that level of taxation will remain the same. So come the end of the day, with the added license fees that will be also required on an annual basis, we firmly believe that it's very safe to say that it will be revenue neutral over the course of many years into the future.
This budget, okay, that the governor has, will there be an increase in taxes?
No. As a matter of fact, we have a comprehensive tax reform proposal in this budget that, although we still have budgetary challenges, the governor has done really a remarkable job in dealing with the $4 billion deficit we had when we first came in. And last year we had added increases of mandated government spending in the neighborhood of $1 billion. And this year it's approximately about $700 million of added spending just to keep government running in the manner that it was last year, $700 million more. So in dealing with that, because of the financial accountability he's brought to the state, we this year are able to inch down, unfortunately it's inching down, but lower our business taxes for small businesses and large businesses over the course of a gradual basis over the next 10 years. We will make Pennsylvania more competitive, which of course drives employment, drives sales tax revenues, drives personal income tax revenues, and that's what the most competitive states throughout the country are doing. And Pennsylvania's going to get there under this governor. Certainly over the next 2 years, but preferably over the next 6 years, we are going to move Pennsylvania right up the ladder.
You said something that I think people may have heard you say it, but let me go back to what you said. You inherited a $4 billion deficit.
Right.
Okay? So here's a guy who comes into office, and he has already $4 billion in debt, all right? Now he has to begin to put these things in effect to bring the state back because we're crumbling. Jobs are not coming in, businesses don't want to come in, et cetera. So now he has to work and say, how do I bring this back? And he's done it with no tax increase so far, with tax deductions. Mm-hmm. Okay. So my thinking again is that, when you have this, I know that you have to have both sides, and it's good to debate and bring issues in there. But when you see benefits happening, then I think it's a matter of of solving the problem instead of inferring that, oh my goodness, if this governor does what he wants to do, and we start making a lot of this is my thinking, not Dan Meuser, okay? When this governor begins to start doing what he's doing, and we see the state growing, and more businesses are coming in, and we're getting tax reductions, how do I ever get control of that Congress again, okay? Mm-hmm. How do I get a Democrat governor back in there, okay? Mm-hmm. And it would be the same if it was a Republican or Democrat. I'm talking both ways. So that's the thing, and I bring this up because a majority of my audience are seniors. And then I don't know how they're surviving today. Yeah. With the gas prices and the fuel prices and the food prices, I don't know how some seniors are existing. They worked all their lives to the benefit, and what happens? They're getting clobbered right now. You know, so we looked at casinos, and even casinos. We have a bankruptcy in Atlantic City now. You know, Trump's selling his place, I think, for $20 million, which I heard, which I read on the Drudge Report. So, you know, the casinos, you're taking that money and you're doing whatever we can. Has there been an increase this year or a decrease in casino revenue?
It's increased. It's increased. I think it's about 2.5% to 3.5% each month. So I mean, it's a positive level of growth. I mean, not leaping forward, but the level of taxation, as we've talked about before, that comes in from our now 11 casinos, is approximately, I should know exactly, about $1.4 billion, and it's highly accounted for. Slot machine taxes are 54%. Table games taxes are 16%. That's before the casinos pay their corporate taxes and all, and you know, PIT, employment taxes, withholding taxes, and so forth. So it's the debate. I know initially when casinos came in, it was probably oversold as far as what it would do for property tax relief, but it does contribute $700 million. To just that, to property tax relief. And the lottery, through the property tax and rent rebate program, provides another close to $250 million.
Folks, I'm talking to Dan Meuser, Secretary of Revenue. When we come back, I want to know a little bit about transportation, but then the most important thing is, what is the vision here? What is the vision here that we're going to see in the next 2 years under Governor Corbett? Stay with us. Thanks for staying with us, folks. My guest, Dan Meuser, Secretary of Revenue. Dan, let's talk about transportation.
Okay.
Where are we at with the transportation budget?
Well, the governor, while he was campaigning and certainly in office the last couple of years, said he would come up with a funding program for transportation, and he has. He's introduced one that, frankly, I think is the best of all the options. A plan to raise over $1 billion a year over the next 3 to 4 years is not easy to come by in this day and age, particularly when the main focus is to lower taxes and and focus on job creation. But the governor's come up with a plan that will do just that. It's lifting the artificial cap that exists on the oil company franchise tax, a tax that is paid by distributors. It was set in 1992 at $1.25. That cap will, over time, over the next 5 years, be raised until it eventually just floats with the market price. The governor as well will be reducing, albeit by a penny, but reducing the liquid fuel tax, which is really paid at the pump, to help offset any potential consumer increases. So in so doing, the ultimate result is it's creating a user fee. For the more you drive, the more you pay. What's occurred over the years, Sam, is that the Motor License Fund, we're one of the only states that the Motor License Fund exclusively pays for our transportation needs. Most states draw from the general fund as well. That fund, our oil company franchise tax and the overall Motor License Fund, has stayed very, very level, very flat funded over the last number of years. And the reason is because although there's many more cars on the road, they're getting much better gas mileage. Mm-hmm. And because of that, the cap is at $1.25. 1992 prices, added revenues are not coming in. So we've got a state with perhaps more public roads than any other state, under-maintained, and the need not just to improve them, but also to modernize and expand the roads. This is the best plan to do it. Over $1 billion a year. The number of jobs is in the thousands, and it will put us on the track to having one of the best highway systems and road systems in the country. Dan,
I mentioned at the beginning of the show your reputation, how you started, and what you achieved in your life, which is really a tribute to you and your family. With that being said, what is your vision as a professional person, whom I have a lot of respect for the state of Pennsylvania in the next 2 years?
Well, thanks, Sam. I have a lot of respect for you, too. And, well, we're here. I say we. I'm in Harrisburg with the governor for the purpose of making things better. I mean, to be a public servant, to be analyzing the problems and doing our best to deliver the best long-term solutions that we can. And I guarantee you that that's all the governor is interested in, long-term, not short-term, not catering to special interests, not political wins. laying out the best strategy possible to help and improve the lives of as many Pennsylvanians as possible. That's what it's about, creating that opportunity, and we plan to do it economically and in quality of life. I like the plan we have, and we're moving forward.
Well, unfortunately for the governor, he has a lot of things going against him. He has a liberal press that's hammering him. He has a very upset Democratic Party that wants power back. And unfortunately, sometimes when you have that, true things don't get in the mix. And I say this, if he was a Democrat and a Republicans do that, I would say the same thing. And people today are not really getting the true facts. I'm hoping that the Attorney General would come on the show, and I have to extend an invitation. I didn't get a chance to get to her. I've asked her when she ran for office to come on the show, but just so she could come on and explain what their office is doing, because I smell politics at it, and it's not you saying it, I smell it, and I don't like it. I think that that people should be there to do the best for the state of Pennsylvania and put special interest aside. Dan, thanks for coming on the show.
Great
Say hi to the
being
governor for me.
All
Folks,
right.
Dan Meuser, Secretary of Revenue of Pennsylvania. You can go to the website, folks, and you can learn all that they're doing. All the information you need is there. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you next time.